Russia has a weak spot along its westernmost deployment that, to this point, Ukraine has left untouched. No, I am not talking about anywhere on the front line itself. You have to go much further west, just past Odessa. Say hello to Transnistria, a little piece of the Soviet Union that never really said goodbye, and has a variant of the old Soviet flag in case you were about to forget. A bunch of vulnerable Russian troops reside there. They seem to be completely unable to defend themselves. So how has Putin avoided another confrontation? That is the topic of today's edition of the Geopolitics Helpline. Should Ukraine assist Moldova to free the country from Russian occupation, as some channels on YouTube suggest? How would that affect the current lines on the map? You know, it is funny. Toward the start of the year, I was preparing a video on the subject, following a controversy that an operation was already underway. But with everything happening in Venezuela, and then everything happening in Iran, I never got around to finishing the script. So better do that now before everything happens in Cuba. Here is the basic point. As an artifact of one of the many post-Soviet civil wars, Moldova has a de facto independent country on its eastern tier. It is called Transnistria, named for the Dniester River running along it. Some combination of the Russian state and semi-rogue Russian military officers intervened in the civil war, ensuring that the Moldovan government would never have full control over its internationally recognized borders. Maybe around 1,000 to 2,000 Russian soldiers are still deployed there, either as peacekeepers or guards for the armory. You can see where this is going for the armchair strategists. The troops in Transnistria have essentially been stuck there since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began. Moldova has it landlocked on the other side. There is zero chance that the Kremlin can charter a flight into there, and good luck trying to sneak anything through some marshland and rivers until you hit the small gap along the Black Sea. Not when Odessa is right there. Not when the Black Sea Fleet can barely control waters near Crimea. So, no more than a couple thousand soldiers who have not received resupply in 4 years, and who have no hope of receiving resupply if Ukraine invaded. It seems like it should be the easiest target of the war so far. Now, once upon a time, we might have guessed that Ukraine was staying out because of the threat of Russian retaliation. Well, sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but nope, that is not it. About 2 years ago, Ukraine invaded Kursk, and Russia retaliated by trying to hire North Korean mercenaries to militarily defeat the Ukrainians there. Today, drones fly around the skies of Moscow, regrettably preventing Zelensky from attending any peace summits that might be held there. And Russia retaliates by firing drones at every Ukrainian city, just like it would be doing if there were no Russian refineries under attack. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan annexed Nagorno-Karabakh from under the nose of Russian peacekeepers. Russia retaliated by having their forces ask for the first flight back home. So, no, it is not a fear of Russian retaliation. If Ukraine ran through there, we would have Putin back on television telling us how the Kiev regime continues to be a menace to civilized society and will be dealt with at the appropriate time. Okay then, is it a lack of capacity? That Ukraine cannot spare the soldiers to open up another front? Nope, it is not that either. Remember, we are only talking about 1,000 to 2,000 soldiers here. If Kyiv put out a call for volunteers tomorrow, I suspect that they would have the necessary forces within the hour. That is especially true given that it is Moldovan territory, so Ukrainian troops would want to do a U-turn after expelling the Russian troops there, rather than occupy the area for itself. Instead, this is not a story about Ukraine at all. It is a story about Moldova. There was an odd moment in January when a bunch of pro-Ukrainian outlets circulated a report that Moldova had effectively blockaded Transnistria, actually locking the breakaway republic in from both sides. That would put the Russian forces there, as well as everyone else, on a relatively short clock. In what has become a scourge of modern journalism, outlet after outlet started rerunning the report, all eventually relying on the initial story, and none conducting their own independent investigation. though the whole thing managed to stay under the mainstream radar because everyone else was busy with what was happening in Venezuela at the time. You can probably see where this is going. It is July, and both Transnistria and the Russian forces inside of it still persist. And it is not because they have mastered counter-siege tactics. You see, none of that story was true. And what is worse, it was very simple to verify the false reporting. The de facto border between Moldova and Transnistria is porous. Anyone living nearby could tell you that the border's status had not changed. And that gives us the original answer for why Ukraine has not attacked Transnistria. Moldova does not want Ukraine to do it, even though Transnistria is an artifact of a rebellion from decades ago. Instead, Moldova's strategy is to eventually convince Transnistria to fold back into the central state. A generational task, to be sure, but one that will not result in another civil war. Strangely, Moldova's secret weapon is the European Union, where more than 70% of Transnistrian exports go. No foreign government recognizes Transnistria, not even Russia, despite the troops present there. Thus, to export goods to anywhere, Transnistrian companies need to register as Moldovan, which means Moldova ultimately ends up with the customs duties. All of this spills over into the political realm. More than 90% of Transnistrians hold Moldovan citizenship, meaning that the breakaway republic participates in Moldovan elections. Voters just have to cross over to do so. This gets complicated, because they disproportionately vote for Russian-favored candidates. We then get accusations from one side that Russia pays directly for votes and subsidizes transport to polling stations, and accusations from the other side that it is too difficult for Transnistrians to vote in general, even though they are kind of having it both ways. There is also a complicated story about how, as of 2 years ago, Russia basically gave Transnistria natural gas to burn for electricity to sell to Moldova, which was the primary source of revenue for the region. Then Ukraine shut off the supply, Russia refused to reroute gas through other pipelines to try to cause a political crisis in Moldova. The whole affair failed, and now Moldova, and Transnistria by extension, get their gas from the European Union. Oopsie. But to return to the original question, should Ukraine assist Moldova to remove Russian troops from Transnistria? You would have to convince Moldova that folding Transnistrians back into the country by force would be a good idea, and they are skeptical there. As for how this would affect the broader conflict with Ukraine, it would not do much at this point. There is no relationship between Transnistria and Moscow to change, because Transnistria is already living on its own island, yet another imperial casualty of the war effort. So whatever you think the lines on the map are now, that should already be baked in. The biggest tangible effect Ukraine could likely get out of it is the capture of 1,000 or so prisoners of war, which would be useful for exchanges with Russia. Obviously, that matters a great deal to the families of those stuck behind enemy lines, but it is not about to change where the line of control is. There would also be a surge in media attention about the war more broadly. Russia is crumbling, Putin is done, and so forth. But that will last a day or two and then go away, leaving the real military problem further east to deal with. Again, no game changer here. Meanwhile, you can change things up by... who am I kidding? You can stick to the status quo by watching more of the archived Geopolitics Helpline videos by clicking here. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.